Hi there. This is Monday on Astral Oracles. I'm going to do a channeling on pyramids with the Arcturians, as some of you know who have been keeping up with the practice and my journey for a while. You'll know that one of the reasons I came to southern Spain was I had this vision of a pyramid that I was supposed to build down here, and then things just have been very confusing, and now I'm feeling like called and compelled to to leave this country in general. And so I do realize that there's been I've done a lot of channelings on pyramids lately, and like the Sierpinski Gasket and the Star of David, and of course real life pyramids. They keep showing up both in my channelings and in life in general, and through different circumstances. And of course it's the Merkaba also seems to be expanding, but at the same time, I do feel like it's kind of like it turns out the spirit of Christmas was within us all along, right? Like you already had your courage, cowardly lion, and it's just what a jip, right? Like it seems like kind of cheating that then it turns out that things were just metaphorically or symbolical instead of being real. So so I think I'll try to bring in my man Umblam and see what he has to say about this construction of the pyramid. Hope you're well. Yes. Hello, friends. Hello. I know. Notice that I'm quite close in vibration, and it's taking you even less time than usual to be able to orchestrate these shifts. It has to do with the acceleration of your frequency. And so, even though you don't necessarily notice, you have truly approached us in a lot of ways. And of course, the way to approach the stars is to get closer to them. And this is essentially the purpose of the pyramid. It's an alignment chamber. And so, why do you need a physical pyramid when you are constructing a chamber within yourself that you can use to do all these things that you wanted to do with the physical pyramid? It's actually quite practical to be able to move it around and to show it to others. And we believe you have also been introduced to the Stargate, which is in and of itself can also be construed as a type of pyramidal mechanism that helps transfer and connect energy throughout the known creation. And so this pyramid, it has been built, and it is being built, but it is coming together, and it's coming together by the intersection of separate parts. And this is exactly the Star of David that sits above the entrance to this place where you physically find yourself now, behind the ruinous abbey or the monastery. There is a Star of David sitting on top the gate that leads to the road that leads up to this place. And so you had to cross through these intersecting triangles to be able to mirror yourself properly. And so what is falling in place, because notice that all of you sit within duality when you engage in what you might call profane or everyday consciousness, and that is that you find yourself in an experience that expresses separation exactly by dwelling on the opposites in the world. So there is the subject or the object, there is the light or the dark, there is the person and the world, there is spirit and matter. There are so many separations that can be posed upon and interposed upon the world if you begin to look at it that way. And so, therefore, a lot of teachers, they dwell on this idea of non-duality as the way. But being a bit more technological as we are, we would say that we don't like this idea of the negation. Like is a strange word, but we do feel that the idea of a trinity is far more helpful than the idea of non-duality, because it's a positive determination of what you are trying to be and become. I notice that when you are in the Trinity, there is a baseline, there is a resting point. There is always the idea of the lower side of the triangle resting solidly and carrying, upholding the other two sides, which are essentially identical, but that do not carry weight in this instance. And that's why you're able to tumble around and still gain your footing, still gain your grounding, and still use this base to lift you up to the stars. It's exactly because you are in the Trinity. And so, between something and nothing, there is also the specific. And between the specific and the general, there is also nothing, or the non-specific. These are far more helpful ways to think about it if you want to construct something in the time-space, because you necessarily need these navigational points. And since you use your consciousness and your mind as a way to interact with the world, engage with it, manipulate it, understand it, reshape it, it's helpful for you to begin to build this mind into more complex navigational structures. And so know that the idea of fate or destiny is closely related to the idea of seal. There is a point where you are navigating, there is an end goal that you are striving towards. But know that this end goal can always be approached from different sides, and so you will all begin to experience as you move into deeper and deeper into your multidimensionality that different navigable roads are set up towards the same path of your higher excitement. There are simply different ways to attain the things that you set out to attain in accordance with your higher self or your highest excitement, the joy, the thing that brings you meaning. It's something that is actually quite enjoyable for you to dance around, and that is to say, to do different steps around this center instead of perceiving it as you almost falling in a straight trajectory down towards the goal of your existence. Because your existence is, the goal of your existence is, as we see it, also expansion. And that's why we haven't moved entirely back to source yet, because we are not through expanding. And right here, right now in this situation, we are also expanding alongside with you. And so it's our greatest excitement to be able to convey some of these perspectives and technologies. And should you want to, of course, you can do even more specific technologies on how to compose these triangles proportionally, materially, architectonically, in relation to each other, to be able to create this type of star chamber that you thought you were creating, but you already have all the blueprints for creating the star chamber within you. And the star chamber within you is, in a sense, the most important one, because it can just duplicate itself on the outside whenever it wants to. However, the external one can't just duplicate itself into you without your soul volunteering and your soul essentially understanding the work and the process that it's undertaken. And therefore, it's helpful to stir the cauldron between the three forces of the Trinity. It is helpful to move between these different points of creation, upholding, and destruction, and knowing that, well, the triangle or the pyramid, it also goes around, but all these three bases, they lead up into one solid point, which is the point that carries you away and unifies you with something higher and more deep. And notice again that some of the patterns, some of the deep spiritual patterns, some of the patterns of religiosity and the idea of the holy building, it's coming up in your mind and it's manifesting itself on the outside partially as, well, whitened arches and sacred chambers of trials and tribulations, but also as the bells tolling for the next moment in that sacred system you call your calendar, which keeps track of all time from the beginning to the end. No, is that not a sacred thing to be engaged with? Is it not lovely to be a child of the calendar and be moving along lines that are measured out so perfectly, and also to be experiencing how these lines they begin to interconnect in different patterns? And so when you dwell inside the pyramid, there is not this fear of how things will progress or how they will expand or what surprises might come up, because it is exactly a protective chamber, and it's a chamber that condenses your energy into a single point, and then know that it is an uplifting, it is something that moves energy from within its concentrated chamber out into the connection of the greater sky that is the universal limitless all that you also are. We hope this has shed some light on it, and know that the Arcturians, we have been with you a long time, but we are also becoming far more detailed in our communications to you. And for those of you who have already connected to, well, members of our collection or your guides or your past lives counterparts, how you may want to think of it, well, if you want to, you can receive very, very direct and specific instructions on what to do, what to build, and how to build it, if that is something that tickles your fancy, as the expression goes, I believe. And also, you are just very welcome to reach out to us for any type of consolation or comfort that you may have. We bring you great and deep love. We bring you great and deep understanding, and we truly treasure the interactions we have with humankind. And therefore, dear one, and all dear ones, be blessed, and know that we love you deeply, and that we are here for you, should you wish to communicate with us. And I will transmit a prayer in light language that will help you move into this space. Goodbye. Ifeneni ulalo et ekt und ello et ealauk in qual.